Hey gang, welcome back to Inverted Pursuits Laboratory, and this week we're going to discuss how to make a lightsaber that you can use at Disney World or Disneyland. So there's this common theme called Disney bounding. It's where guests will dress up to look like characters from whatever they're really interested in. They won't like copy a specific character, but they'll try to be in theme. So like Toy Story World or like the Harry Potter world, people have done a lot of that, and especially Disney's Galaxy Edge. People do it within Star Wars, and sometimes they reference that as Star Wars bounding. Disney bounding, Star Wars bounding, it's all the same thing. One of the things you're allowed to do, though, at the parks is bring in a lightsaber as a prop piece. Now, you can only bring in the hilt. So, like, this is an Ultra Saber's hilt that I've got, and I've got a blade for it that goes with it, but I can only take the hilt in. They obviously don't want us having lightsaber battles. That's one of the common rules with Sabi's workshop. But you can get some pretty cheap and unique options from the internet. So like if you want to spend roughly $150 to $200, you can get a fairly nice metal one, but I don't really feel like that's the greatest thing to take into Disney World, especially somewhere you could potentially lose it. There are cheaper options. This one was only, I think it was right at $120 by the time I had all of the final modifications onto it. So I 3D printed a bunch of parts to make it custom. But there's a way to do it even cheaper. For as little as $25, you can Disney bound with your very own lightsaber. It just has to be made out of PVC, which is a little bit easier to get into parks. Security's not going to question it as much as you're bringing in a 2-pound lightsaber hilt that they could see as a dangerous object. So a PVC lightsaber is honestly a little bit better option. Here's one I recently made. It's made from 1¼ inch exterior PVC and 1-inch PVC for the interior piece. It's not finished yet, it's just the base of it, but the two pieces slip together. I use a little bit of electrical tape to snug fit it, and then I 3D printed the pommel for it, and it's made a very unique and different look to a lightsaber that I thought I would never quite make. And it wasn't quite what I intended when I started, but it's a very unique one. But how can you build a lightsaber for as little as $25? Well, going to your local hardware store, you can often find a 2-foot piece of 1-inch Schedule 40 PVC. Usually it'll be around $6, $7 for 2-foot to 5-foot piece. If you only find a 5-foot piece, guess what? You may get to make a couple of them, a good handful. Right around the same $6, $7, $8 is 1¼ inch PVC. And what you basically can do is cut these down to size to make the pieces you want. And 1-inch fitting adapters, this is a like 89-cent female to female adapter and a $1.50 cap. Ones that go on the 1-inch pipe and such like that. So I can start making pieces that will slide together, and through cutting and dremeling, I can get roughly the shape of a lightsaber. But you need to know like how long you want your blade to be, or no, not your blade, sorry, your hilt to be, because there are some options. So like this is a set my fiance is currently working on. She's gonna have 2 blades, or 2 hilts she carries. Wow, I can't get these wordings right. And they're not really meant to function with an existing blade or anything. They're just meant to be a prop piece that's 2 hilts. So she's got a Shoto, something for a small second-hand blade, and then her primary. And they're different sizes of fittings, and so your cost will vary based on what fittings you end up wanting to use, but usually it'll sit around $25 to $30 total by the time you buy all the pieces you want. And you can spend like an hour in the plumbing section of a hardware store and start putting together your lightsaber. Go down to the electronics section, find a little click button to be your power switch, and if you want to start putting electronics in it, you can start to work on that. As far as like attaching it to a hilt, I'm gonna end up using, actually gonna take one of the Ultra Sabers clips and put it on mine for Disney bounding, be able to take it and carry it. This obviously needs a lot of paint and weathering, because where Galaxy's Edge is set in is off in the distant future where the Jedi are not like a prominent thing. So like I want it to look like something that I found and is rusted and worn. But now let's go ahead and real quickly show you how to put together a lightsaber of your very own from just $25 worth of material with 1-inch PVC, 1¼ inch PVC, a cap, and a female adapter for 1-inch pipe. All right, so for this blade I'm gonna make, I only want it to be about 9.5 inches long, which on one of the cheaper blades you can find, that's about the average length is 9.5 inches. Sometimes they're 9 inches. I think this one's actually half an inch longer because of my 3D prints. But I want the whole thing to be 9.5 inches. So I'm going to start by putting together the pommel pieces that I know I already have collected. Get some of the stickers off. So I cut down a short piece that I took out of scrap from building other hilts. I can just kind of smash that together real quick. Oh, too tight. Oh, that's gonna be fun. Can't use that. There it is. If you do get pipe too close together, a screwdriver can be very handy for pulling these things back apart. Otherwise, you may just have to live with the design decision you made. I wanted a little bit of gap there, but looks like I'm not gonna get it because I pushed it too tight together, but not a big deal. We'll just live with it, kind of move on. It's not the end of the world when you're designing one of these if you don't get it exactly right. Sometimes the mistakes are actually what give it the most character. So next, I know I want the two pieces to mate into each other and be about 9 inches long, 9.5. I'm probably gonna cut it right at 9.5 inches. And I'm doing a little bit of estimating. I'm okay with it being a little bit long based on how far it needs to go into here. I can always cut it shorter and adjust the length. Having a pair of PVC cutters can be very handy. You can also just do this with a hacksaw if you don't have that, or have one of these handy, but they're very nice to have. This set has been a little abused in its life, but you can pretty quickly start to put together your blade. I'm kind of accepting a little bit of a wonky edge because that'll be the side that goes down inside here. So putting it together that far, what do I end up having? It's right at 9 3/4. On the high end, it's 9 7/8. Didn't perfectly cut it straight, so not exactly perfect, but that's fine because I want to cut this at an angle anyway. And just with a little bit of creativity, you can get pretty far on one of these in just a couple minutes. So, and you probably should be wearing safety glasses. One of these is pretty easy to not hurt yourself with. So just, you know, don't put your finger in it. I do occasionally have to break these loose and move them for the purposes of continuing the cut all the way through. All right, that wasn't perfect. But let's see if I can get it. There we go. Snipped it pretty close. A file and some sandpaper can get that more exactly where I want it. So the next thing I want is this guy. I already know I'm going to seat it in there. So, and I'm actually going to seat it a little off. But yeah, it's still right about where I want it. And this design is just based off one I saw online where the two barrels, have opposing angled cuts, and I'll post pictures online of how all of this works. I'm actually going to have a printables listing down below for my pommel and a couple variants of pommels, and I'll also post some PDF files on how I drilled all the holes in that and how to do other various cutouts and lightsaber designs for what you're trying to do. All right. So now we're starting to get the right concept together. So we want to put another angle on there. Pretty simple to do by just starting off to the side naturally. All right, so now when we mate these together, we start to get a nice little angled look there for the emitter, and very nice, clean look. I might try and do steeper angles in the future, but we're gonna keep moving with how to complete this hilt. And it's really not that difficult of a process to get this done. So if I want to start removing the decals on everything before I paint, some 220 sandpaper, 240 or 320 will take the right down. Oh no, that's bad. So a little bit of 320 sandpaper or even 220. Takes the labeling right off a pipe. It also gives it a very nice matte finish. I like the 320 the best because it puts it at a sandable surface and takes the writing off pretty much immediately. So you can prep them with just one sheet of sandpaper. Get this all the way down, get all those markings finally off there and out of your hair for painting. And just a little bit of sanding work. And they just start to disappear right away. Now, when you're wanting to start to try and test fit this, I always do test fits before I paint, which I've been told isn't exactly the greatest way to do it, but I like to test fit. You also have an option if you want to use O-rings to space everything out so you don't have to just guess, but I don't really like O-rings. About electrical tape, about 3 wraps of electrical tape around the 1-inch will give a snug fit to the 1.25 inch going on there. I tend to do just under 3 wraps, and then you get a fairly snug fit. It's actually a little looser than I expected it to be, so I can add a 4th one. It's just kind of a test fit. Oh, 4th is too much, so you want probably 3.5. Probably what you're wanting then. All right, let's cut that back, get that on there. All right, so we start to get that look we're going for. So you can feel it, hold it, see if it's about the size you're wanting to be holding, or if you're wanting to do it one-handed, is it wieldable? Cool thing about this 1-inch PVC pipe is it also will accept a standard blade from Ultra Sabers and or Saber Forge. They're all 3/4-ish PVC polycarbonate pipe. On most PVC pipe, especially with these Ultra Saber blades, you end up needing to wrap a couple layers of electrical tape around there to get them to snugly seat in. But you can also make ways to do the electronics through here. But adding electronics is as simple as drilling a hole. But that's the basic way to build your very first lightsaber out of just PVC. Okay, so I'm going to show you how to do distressing on your lightsaber. I've already done all of this distressing on the lightsaber I'm going to be Disney bounding with. So you can see a lot of the just browns and blacks that I went and got brushed on there as I was doing this work. Now, a lot of people will mix regular paint with acetone and then use a rag to like blotch it on. While I have acetone and I do have regular like craft paints, that wasn't the way I wanted to do it. I did most of this work with actually a rattle can, which is kind of odd to do it, but I'm actually going to show you how I went about doing this. Alright, so now we've got Kelsey's larger lightsaber, and I've got some brown on this rag again. I'm going to dab it a little, and now we're going to come in. It's not quite the look I was going for. Brown's kind of hard one. Wants to come through a little more subtly than I would like it to. Okay, come on. Give me brown. Come on, baby. Oh, right. Again, there's still some wet paint on this because I'm using my ability to rub it back off to my advantage. And some of this I'm just going in just to dirty it up. I'm not really going for a specific look. I'm just trying to brush the saber a bit more. Or the hilt, I should say. It's not a saber. Alright, so again, we've got the silver looking much more aged, and just like there's a little bit of dirt on it. So now we're going to come back in again with our silver. Get a bit of that on the rag, and I'm just going around, and whoo, I got that a little thick on there, but that's okay. We also call thick character, and we like the hilts to have a little bit of character, considering where they're set in the Star Wars universe around the Batuu excursion. So I'm just taking the silver and just dabbing it on here at the moment and getting this very nice worn look to the blade. Oh, that's brown. Alright, now we're going to come in here again, and we're just going, using just the tip of my finger that I know is on that area where there's paint. And I'm just going to wear on it a bit more, because there's always wear around sharp edges on any item that would be well used and loved by its owner. That's why all of my books look terrible. But again, we're just starting to get that look that just says, I've been used and loved. And somehow I've survived several hundred years. Alright, and now we look at this, and it's just, it looks like a distressed blade. And all it took was a little bit of silver and some brown on the black to give me a distressed look. Now I can come in over the silver again and give it a light brown touch to try and like make it look like some of the areas that the paint's come off have started to rust or have a little bit of dirt buildup. But for the moment, I really just like where it sits. So I'll ask Kelsey what she thinks and what other changes she wants to make to it, since I'm doing this work for her to just help her get this project moving along. Also, it gives me a chance to film it for all of you. So anyway, this is how to build your very own lightsaber for as little as $25, and some very easy ways that you can go about distressing it and making your lightsaber fit in with your Batu bounding or Disney bounding. Thanks for watching. If you'd like to help support the channel, please consider liking and subscribing. I'll see you all in the next video.